Hi there, thanks for joining us for another autonoME user guide tutorial. In this video, we will explore and customize our autonoME using settings. From the main menu, let's select Settings. Quick insight here, we are using a Bluetooth mouse and keyboard to access the system, simulating touch. However, as with all autonoME apps, programs, and controls, any input method can be used. Sip and puff, voice, eye gaze, switch scan, it's all up to the user. As always, our side panel containing navigation controls, nurse call, stop inputs, master volume, and phone access is visible on the left. To the right of the side panel, we can see buttons that will allow us to manage and adjust our switch settings, voice access, eye gaze, screen settings, update our system, control the volume, and speech. There's also a button that says Minimize Window, and we see access to remote support. Let's get started. We'll begin by selecting Switch Settings. The Switch Settings menu allows us to enable and disable auto scan, enable and disable audible scanning, and increase and decrease our loop count and duration. When we enable auto scan, our autonoME will automatically begin highlighting or scanning the different options or buttons available for selection on our screen. This feature only works when we access the system with a switch device. Unfortunately, we do not have one available today, but we can still walk through the process. Audible scanning is a great feature for users whose vision changes or those of us that experience screen fatigue as the day goes on. When we enable audible scanning, our autonoME will read the selections on screen aloud to us. For instance, when the left side panel is highlighted during audible scanning, the autonoME will say Controls. If we were to select with our switch, the autonoME would begin speaking our options: main menu, go back, stop inputs, etc. In order to access the app area of our main menu, we would listen for the autonoME to say main grid while this area is highlighted. Then we would select using our switch. Our autonoME would begin speaking the row numbers when highlighted, and finally the names of our available apps like this: row 1, row 2, etc. And if we were to select row 1, it would begin with the apps on that row: Remote Notify, Connect, LG, and so on. The loop count refers to the number of times the system will scan and cycle through the items on the screen before stopping. We can increase or decrease the loop count based on our preferences using the up and down arrows. Duration refers to the amount of time a menu option is highlighted by the system during switch scanning. This switch scan setting can be fine-tuned to our needs as we see fit. So, if we were to put it all together, our autonoME system scan would look something like this.
For example, we set the loop count to 3 and the duration to 2. The result when we go back to the main menu and select Scan is the left sidebar is selected, then the apps are selected 3 separate times with the menu areas highlighted for 2 seconds each. This gives the user time to make a selection after visually scanning the screen. If the time frame is too short or too long, the settings may be changed appropriately.
Now, let's head back to the main settings page to explore our next set of options. Select Go Back. From here, we can see an area labeled Voice Access. Let's check it out. Voice Access allows us to configure and manage our autonoME for voice control. From here, we can enable and disable voice input. We can select and set up our microphone using the configuration button and following the prompts. And we can participate in user training. What's user training? When setting up your autonomy for voice access, we recommend going through user training. This program provides us with a set of prompts that we can read back to the computer, allowing our autonomy to learn our specific voice characteristics like timbre, pitch, and accent. If you're currently using voice access on your autonomy system and you're experiencing some issues with missed selections, or you feel the system is having difficulty hearing you, you can always go back to user training to recalibrate your autonomy. One last thing before we leave voice access. You'll notice that when the voice toggle is switched to the on position, the space behind the toggle is white and the text underneath says disable voice, that the other buttons are lit up and can be selected. When we disable voice and switch to the off position, the space behind the toggle is blue and the text underneath says enable voice, the other buttons turn gray and cannot be selected. In order to set up your microphone or access user training, voice must be enabled and the toggle switched on. Okay, moving on. Select Go Back. We'll head on down to the second row and select pointer and eye gaze settings. Let's select eye gaze. Now, we can see the options to enable eye gaze and calibrate eye gaze. This system we're working from today does not have an eye gaze camera installed, but if we were using eye gaze to access our autonomy, we would select Enable Eye Gaze, then select Calibrate Eye Gaze. Eye gaze calibration is a quick and necessary step that allows the system to recognize our eyes and their movements in order to provide us with the best possible experience. Calibration also shows us where our system needs to be positioned in relation to our eyes so it can follow our selections. During eye gaze calibration, simply follow the prompts on screen and the system will do the rest. Now, there was another button in the pointer and eye gaze settings section. Let's go back. Dwell speed. Let's click it. Dwell speed on autonomy is defined as the amount of time we must look at a button before it is selected. For instance, if we were to increase the dwell speed to 3 seconds, we would need to stare at the button we wanted to select for 3 seconds in order for the system to make the selection. Dwell speed is personal to each user and can be increased or decreased at any time using this setting. Let's go back to the setting page, shall we? Select Go Back. And go back again. Let's jump over to brightness. From here, we can adjust the brightness of our autonomy screen. We can increase and decrease by degrees using the arrows, or we can use day and night modes for more drastic jumps. If you're like me and struggle with screen fatigue, adjusting your autonomy screen brightness throughout the day can be a huge help. Let's go back again. Now, let's select Terms of Use. This area is one we'll probably never visit after our autonomy installation, but it is good to have it handy. If we ever have questions about the use of our autonomy or need to provide documentation, we can scroll through this page. We can also zoom in and out and move left to right using the accessible navigation menu at the bottom. Okay, enough of the boring stuff. Let's get back to it. Select Go Back. Under the big black Terms of Use bar, we see Page Scale in the left column. Let's click it. Page Scale allows us to customize the size of our on-screen buttons. Let's select Medium. Now, let's check out Medium in action by selecting Main Menu. Obviously, the buttons on our autonomy are much bigger. Let's try that again, but with large. We'll select Next Page at the top. Then select Settings. Now choose Page Scale. Finally, we'll click Large. Whoa, now we're talking. I don't even need my glasses for these options. Let's see it in action. Main Menu. Awesome. As we can see, changing the page scale does affect the number of apps visible on our autonoME at once. So, if we were to opt for the larger buttons, we would need to use the page buttons at the top. Page scale can come in handy when using eye gaze or if our vision changes throughout the day. All right, we're going to put things back the way they were and carry on. Select Next Page until we see the Settings app. Choose Settings, then Page Scale. Finally, we'll select Small. Now that we're back, we'll go back. The autonoME software does update frequently on its own. However, there may be times when we need to check for updates and perform them manually. We can do that by selecting Update Application. When we select Update Application, autonoME will ask us if we'd like to check for an application update. We'll select Yes. Now our software has been scanned for any outstanding updates. In this case, there are no latent updates and we've been brought back to the main page menu. We've also seen a pop-up notification that tells us the software is up to date. If there are updates, the autonoME will close, install the latest version, and restart on its own. All right, let's click Settings again. Volume Control. In Volume Control, we have access to the overall autonoME system volume. We can increase and decrease our system's volume throughout the programs. We can mute the entire system by selecting Mute Volume. We can turn the toast sound on and off. What's the toast sound? It's that little pop of noise that our autonoME makes to alert us when a pop-up notification is on screen. For instance, if we select Mute Volume, the system mutes and we hear no toast sound when the pop-up notifies us that the system is muted. Now, we'll select Mute Volume again. That pop that we heard when the notification came up is the toast sound. We can even turn the click feedback off and on. If it's late, or we don't want to disturb others around us, or maybe we're just tired of the sound overall, we can toggle the click feedback button to the off position, and the click sound will mute when we make selections on the screen. Let's check it out. We'll select click feedback, toggling the button to the off position. Then select increase volume. Now we hear the toast sound for the pop-up, but not the click sound when we select. Let's select click feedback again, toggling the button to the on position. And now we'll select increase volume again. The click sound is back. We're going to get our volume back to the way we like it, then we'll select go back and continue our journey through the settings menu. Up next is minimize window. Minimize window allows us to, minimize the autonoME software without exiting it completely. By choosing to minimize the autonoME software window without completely exiting, we still have access to safety features such as nurse call and our phone. We also have easy access to the main menu, and our system is able to maintain its connection to our smart lights, TVs, and any other items that are controlled by our autonoME. What are these other buttons? Swap sides. Swap sides allows us to customize which side of the screen our panel lives on. Selecting Minimize Panel will compress this new menu panel into a small box in the corner of our screen, allowing us to see and control our entire computer screen, but still providing us with confidence and safety, knowing our autonoME system is still easily accessible. This feature is great for those of us that like to use Dragon Naturally Speaking to access our computer controls and web browser. Remember, the autonoME system is essentially an app that is designed specifically for our use case. Then it is added to a Microsoft Surface by our team of in-house engineers who maintain the program and create updates based on user feedback. So, if we want to use the system as a personal computer but still have access to bed controls, nurse call, and everything else the autonoME provides, this is a great option for us. Now, let's select Maximize Panel, then Main Menu. It's that easy. Okay, head back to Settings. We're going to select Speech Settings. In Speech Settings, we see Voices and Speech Rate. If we select Voices, we're given two options, Microsoft David Desktop and Microsoft 𝙬𝙀 Desktop. Let's select David.
Imagination is more important than knowledge.
Now 𝙬𝙀.
Imagination is more important than knowledge.
From here, we can choose which voice we would like the autonoME to use when speaking messages for us. If we choose 𝙬𝙀, the system will use that voice when it reads our messages out loud. I'll keep 𝙬𝙀 and then select Go Back. Let's check out Speech Rate. Speech Rate allows us to customize the speed at which our system speaks for us. This feature is great because, like our real voices, we can choose to speak quickly or more slowly based on our personal speaking style. Let's choose Fast.
Imagination is more important than knowledge.
Maybe you prefer the fast setting when you're excited about something or need to express something quickly. What about slow?
Imagination is more important than knowledge.
Maybe slow is a better option when communicating with pets or small children. I'll select default.
Imagination is more important than knowledge.
It feels the closest to my natural speech pattern. On to more settings. Right next to speech settings, we see remote support. Remote support is an app that allows ASI's tech support team to access our autonoME in the event there is a malfunction. As an end user, we won't need to access this area unless tech support asks us to. The last button in our settings app is Restart Computer. This is exactly as advertised. Anytime we'd like to restart our computer, this button gives us easy access using our preferred input method without having to exit out of autonoME. Finally, we have the admin panel. To access the admin panel of our autonoME system, we will need to tap the top left corner of the screen just above the date and time. The admin panel cannot be accessed via any other screen. We must be in the Settings app and touch the top left corner of the screen in order to access the admin panel. For more information on the admin panel, check out our autonoME user guide tutorial on the admin panel. Remember, as our software updates to improve your experience, some features may change. If you have questions, contact our support team. We hope you enjoyed this tutorial. Curious about autonoME's other features? Connect with us by calling our office directly at 800-933-8400 or visiting our website, accessibilityservices.com. That's ACCESSIBILITY services.com. autonoME, independence made better.